Today, we're joined by Kevin and Tom from the indie development studio Mochi Mode. Can you guys introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about Mochi Mode?
I'm Kevin, basically the lead designer / producer for Mochi Mode. We're this indie company that started up in Cardiff. Tom, do you want to carry on?
Yeah, I'm Tom. I'm the artist, I guess, lead artist. And yeah, we've been working together since we all founded the company a short while ago.
Yeah. Just a couple of years now, isn't it?
Yeah.
You meet in university?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it was a strange one how our team actually formed, because Tom's worked with the rest of the group, like, I guess throughout uni, didn't you? Like, were you always...
Yeah, and before, back when I did my foundation course, before, like, meeting them then. And then the project grew organically around a third-year university project that our producer was doing at the time, and she invited us all in on that project to see where it would go.
It's really funny story, actually, because throughout uni, I knew that I wanted to work with this team, but I always thought that they were too cool for me in a weird way. And then after they invited me to be the designer for them, because I haven't worked with them before, like I was basically like the, fresh meat. About I'd say halfway through the production of the game, we all became like really close friends. And then when I said, I always thought you guys were too cool for me, and then it was actually like the same way around. Like, it was Laura.
It was the opposite. We thought you were super cool, and we were like. We're like, oh, we can't ask Kev to work with us. He'll turn us down. He's too cool.
So it was really funny. But yes, Tom and I lived together. We house shared. Yeah. And then Laura was looking for a designer, and then Tom was just because we're literally right next door to each other, our rooms. He was like, "Oh, Kev, are you doing anything design wise?" I was like, "No, I'm literally doing nothing, mate."
Yeah.
So. Yeah, like, that's how I kind of got brought on. It was just like happy coincidence, kind of.
Like, it seems like the stars aligned a little bit.
Yeah, it kind of did.
Yeah, it was really, really nice. I like how the team like grew organically into the roles that we kind of had assigned for ourselves as the project went on.
Yeah, because we all had the idea of, okay, you're going to be designer, you're going to be programmer, but it never really stayed that way. Because I went in just knowing that I was going to do design, and then I ended up doing, a bit of programming, a bit of art, just like dressing the levels when Tom was like creating assets and stuff like that, and then doing a bit of production as well. Like, especially in an indie company, you just branch out and do other things, in a small team.
You end up like wearing multiple hats, right? Doing a little bit of each. You especially, I think, you dipped into quite a few of the roles. I think me a bit less. I think I did a bit of the 2D art for certain things. We got another 2D artist in as well. I was mostly focused on one thing though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it just gets to a point where sometimes you're like, well, we don't have the manpower of a AAA company or whatever. So, it's just a conscious decision to say, I gotta learn.
Someone's got to do it, right? So you kind of take it upon yourself to go through and learn whatever you need to learn, or talk to the people that you need to talk to.
Yeah.
Did you find that in doing that, people like naturally gravitate towards certain or learning certain stuff, or did someone have to sort of take charge and be like, okay, can you look into this? Can you look into this?
I feel like we tried to designate tasks.
Yeah. I would say a bit of half and half, right? I think a couple of people in the team really did kind of like gravitate towards certain roles, and they just kind of like took up the reins and did it and rolled with it and went. And then a couple of other people, myself included, needed a bit of a nudge here and there when it came to doing the extra tasks, because you're way more confident to do the thing that you've already kind of practiced to do in uni. And so you feel a bit more comfortable under the reins of that kind of project when you're spreading out and doing something that you're less familiar with. Sometimes you need a bit of a push to do that.
Yeah, but it's kind of like a double-edged sword, right? Because there was a point where we were trying to designate tasks, and we were like, all right, you do this, specifically this. And that could have been a team member's worst nightmare. Like, they would never have thought of doing that in their entire, like, plans, I guess. So I think I'm a very special boy in the best and worst way possible, where I would happily just take everything up just to make it easier for everyone else, and I never worry about my own well-being. It did get to a point where, like, I think Tom and Laura really had to just be like, Kev, you just gotta calm down, because, like, you're basically killing yourself. And I was like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think Laura was the one that realized it, because we weren't aware of just how much other things you'd, like, taken up.
Yeah.
It's funny. Yeah, it's funny how, depending on your personality and the roles that you're in, you took up a lot of different tasks. And there were others of us that, like, needed a push to do those extra things because we were just unfamiliar with them and a bit more standoffish about taking the leap with certain pieces of the project.
It was definitely, I would definitely not blame any of the team members. It was strictly because we were going into an area that none of us even knew how to do. None of us knows how to run a company. None of us knows about the documentation behind it, the, like, all of that stuff behind it.
Yeah, the legal side, like making sure that, like, your company is, like, set up properly, and, you know, all the T's are crossed and all of that, you know.
But it just got to a point where I think Laura was kind of forced into it in a way, because with Tranzfuser, they wanted specific team roles, and because hers was team lead, she thought that the natural path was to be doing all of the admin for the company
and being a producer at the same time. And all of that.
But that is literally two different jobs.
And
then she was balancing that and trying to be a designer at the same time. It does get to a point where you're just like, I gotta step up, you know.
Can you elaborate a little bit more on, you mentioned Tranzfuser there, can you elaborate a little bit more on that and talk around that a bit, what it is, your experience of it?
Tom, why don't you take this one? I feel like I've been talking quite a lot.
It's a competition. It's a competition set up in partnership with the UK Games Fund and UK government.
Games Talent.
Games Talent, etc. And they reach out to lots of different universities throughout the UK, and teams from those unis apply, small teams, like a handful each of people on each team. And you apply with a project, kind of a pitch of your project. And if you're successful in the pitch and it sounds interesting, it sounds like something that has legs, they invite you into the rest of the competition, where you're basically pitted against the rest of the teams from these other universities throughout the UK. You go on to, they kind of help manage you a little bit, you know. They help to give you, like, the guidelines and the things that give you structure, I guess, to help you make a project that'll work. But it's mainly about creating a workable indie company from the ground up.
Because
it's
definitely targeted towards graduates, right? Because it's all grad teams that apply.
That's right.
It is like pitching an idea and all of that, but it's also like pitching that you've thought about the funding behind it, or like the audience demographic behind it, and all of the nitty-gritty stuff that, you know, when you're growing up, you're like, oh yeah, I want to make a game. Like, you don't really think about who you're trying to sell that to when you're growing up.
The difference between the idea and actually having a business plan that is workable.
Exactly. You gotta, like, it's about proving to them that you've got an idea that's not just interesting but, like, financially viable, and you've thought of how you're gonna realize that goal and make it a financial success as well.
Oh, we totally forgot to say as well, like, the whole competition the winners they get funding. They do.
Yes,
they get. Well, we got 25,000. That is correct, isn't it? I'm not making that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we got 25,000 for winning. There was also another team that won the same year as us. They've sometimes done like 3 different winners, and then they've sometimes done 6 different winners, but it's like up to 25,000, so they didn't get the full grant. Anyway, the kind of, I guess, prize pool was some money to help you further this whole adventure into an indie studio. Yeah, we applied. Well, Laura applied to Tranzfuser. We got past kind of the screening process, and then got invited up to. It was Manchester back then. Yeah. Oh yeah, because I drove all the way up.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Invited to Manchester to do a further pitch. It was just fun to be in a car and just like stay a night up in the place, because it kind of like furthers the workforce and like the relationship between that workforce. But so that was kind of cool.
Yeah, it was. It's a bit nerve-wracking, like going against the pitching panel, right? We had to pitch
all industry professionals.
Yeah.
Was it quite a lot of scrutiny?
I think, like we had no idea what we were in for.
Yeah.
We'd never done it before.
Yeah.
So we kind of hoped that we'd like made our idea sound as professional as possible, and I guess every other team tried the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, like, how the hell do you pitch a game where you're herding cows? Yeah. We somehow bloody did it. Yeah, it was crazy. It was a great experience. But yeah, after that, we got a couple more weeks to develop the game. During the competition, they give you 10 weeks to develop it.
That's right, yeah.
But you could choose from an already existing game that you've been working on for, like, I think it was less than a year was the cutoff time.
Yeah, and then, so they expect you maybe to have had an idea that you've been working on at uni.
Yeah.
And then using that project, you represent your uni almost in pitching the idea and like turning that into a 10-week, kind of like a 10-week game jam.
Yeah.
That's
a perfect way to put it.
Yeah, but you're versing, I think we were up against 23 other teams on the year that we did it. And I think it's been around about that every year. Maybe more in more recent years, I think. It's been more teams progressively. But yeah, you've got to like basically game jam for 10 weeks straight.
I remember the last week, man, like because Laura didn't live with us at that point, and she was literally sleeping over, so we could get 3 hours sleep and then get back to work.
Yeah.
It was pretty gruesome. Even if you don't win, it's an amazing opportunity. You get to take your game to EGX. Like, they pay for the booth for you. They pay for your passes. It's great. Like, all you have to do is accommodation and travel, which is completely fine considering the costs. Yeah, you basically get to show your game off to the entirety of the public at EGX for, Thursday all the way to Sunday. I think the highlight for me wasn't seeing the public play my game, even though that was lovely. It was more so being able to talk to other developers, being able to finally chat to the other people on Tranzfuser who we saw like screenshots of their work, and I'm like, these are really cool. I want to talk to them. I've finally got to talk to them, I even like met a like representative in Nintendo there, 4 different indie developers. At the time, getting onto the Switch was a huge stepping point.
Yeah.
Right? Because like it wasn't oversaturated back then. I spoke to like 4 nindies. All of them were like so chill. You get this wake up call because throughout uni, you're expected to always be like business. Just going to EGX and talking to all of these developers, you realize that they don't want to talk to a business guy who's like, hey, do you want to publish our game? They just want to talk to another human being. And I think that's what like kind of shaped how I interact with other people in the industry these days. I'm just like my stupid ass self. Being a dumbass. Yeah,
it's been interesting, isn't it? Like you get that, you go through that process of thinking that you're, what do you call it? It's imposter syndrome.
Yeah,
where you think that we're fresh out of uni graduates, like we've still got a lot to learn. Anyone, like any professional that we talk to, is going to know way more than us, and maybe we're not worth their time to speak to or whatever. And you get kind of like, it can be a bit overwhelming to think, of some of the people that you might be talking to. And then, as Kev's saying, you have this realization along the way that actually they're all people too. They've all been in the same situation as us at some point. Everyone started from zero. Yeah, it kind of grounds you. It's really interesting to talk to people that maybe they're like a long way down the road past where we are, but they respect where you are. They just want to chat to you like you're any other dev, and
because they
talked about their interests. And
they
stuff.
were in the
It's
same
really
place
cool.
as us. It's exactly what you said. Like they're like, we know how hard it is to get to where we are, so they're really open to have a chat. Like so many, I don't want to throw shade, but so many of the Tranzfuser teams during our year when we were showcasing, they really didn't care about anyone else but themselves. It didn't piss me off. It just made me so confused as to why you would get a free ticket to a big convention full of devs and you wouldn't want to go around talking to other devs. I was just like so bewildered by it.
Yeah, I think it was a combination of things. I think you're right. I think a lot of teams, they stuck to themselves a lot. Maybe they, the fear, like the imposter syndrome, or like the just bewildering nature of being in an environment that you've not been in before. Yeah. Maybe that made them a bit more reserved than they otherwise would have been. But I think definitely. You're right. I think it was definitely more than that. Some of them just didn't get that, you should be talking to as many people as possible, because you never know long down the line, who you might be talking to next, or like whether they'll remember you, or, what projects they'll open up.
But winning Tranzfuser, though, I'll be honest, when I got there, I was like, all right, we've got all of these like sexy looking games, really, really cool games. And we're just here with this dumbass fucking cow herding game.
Yeah, I was bewildered. Like there were so many, because I guess like, whatever specialism you work in, whether it's like design, programming, art, you're always going to gravitate towards how other teams have solved the problems that you're working on, or how deliciously good looking some of these games are, and like how they've achieved what they've achieved, and you think, oh man, if only we'd thought to do what we do in the same way as someone else, or if only we had an extra week or whatever. You get absorbed in like just looking at everyone else's game and thinking, oh, how do we measure up against all these other games? Some of them were absolutely beautiful.
They were
some
great.
Of them, some of them were like gameplay wise, like really, really satisfying gameplay loops.
Really solid, yeah. And as I was saying, sorry, I've got sidetracked. Once we won, they gave us, obviously the grant. That was like one of the reasons we wanted to win. But the main reason was literally the opportunity afterwards.
For sure.
Granted, all of these different industry experts, being able to contact them whenever to be like, hey, are we still doing the right thing? Like that's what matters. Yeah, I remember having a conversation. I forgot who it was, and I think it's better that I forget, because then I don't drop anyone in the shitter. They basically said to me that the reason why a lot of the judges chose your game was because with 25,000, your game can actually be finished. With all of the other games, even though they had amazing art, amazing like ideas for the game, it got to a point where those ideas were too big that it would have costed over 200,000 to get finished. They were kind of trying to invest the grant in the kind of like the smartest option in a way, if that makes sense. Fantastic opportunity. Even if we didn't win, I think we would have still carried on. And also not had to worry about all of the like company setup and stuff like that.
I think what we would have done is we would have seen how close we came and just applied the next year. And just seen if we can come back, because I think there's like a limitation on how many times you can attempt to come back. But
not even that though. We would have like looked for way more competitions and stuff like that.
Other things. Now that we've like, you've taken that first step and you've applied to one competition or whatever, there's nothing to stop you, or grant or anything, there's nothing to stop you applying to another, and another, and just see which end up being successful.
So the game in question that you're referring to, correct me if I'm wrong, is Moo Moo Move.
Yeah.
That is a puzzle game. What was it that directed you to the decision to make a puzzle game over something else?
It was mainly the scope of the game. It was a lot easier to meet than Laura's initial idea, which was a full farming simulator, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was kind of like, I think initially it sounded like we were basically pitching a successor to something like Harvest Moon.
Yeah.
That had a lot more mechanics and would have been a much bigger scope that would have put our small team of like recently graduated devs under a lot of pressure to try and succeed completely.
100%, yeah.
Lofty target.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I think we ended up picking the small core mechanics that we wanted to focus on and trying to say like, oh, you know, what is it about this mechanic that's fun? Make the game about that and then see where it went. I think it kind of became a puzzle game. I don't think we ever sat down at the very beginning and decided to make a puzzle game. I think it just kind of slowly became one over time.
It just came out of talking, I guess. I've never really described it as a puzzle game, actually.
When I describe it to people who have never seen it, I say, imagine mini golf.
But you've got 8 balls.
But you've got 8 balls, and each one of them is a cow.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Judging by my like language, I've been like talking about this game. Like, I don't hate this game at all, not one bit. I love what it's done for me and everything like that. It just seems like a silly idea for a game, you know, from like this huge umbrella of every other game that's out there.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. You look back with hindsight, right, and you're like, we could have done something different, or we could have made this particular project in a different way, maybe a better way. At the time, knowing what we knew then, you know, we were just kind of going through the motions of like trying our best, launching a project. It was like really invigorating to just roll with it and just go with wherever this project took us.
Yeah, we were just letting things happen. That's what got everyone so interested and motivated, because it was like, oh, can we add this? It's like, yeah, why not? Just go for it.
Yeah.
I guess casual arcade game is what I would call it.
Yeah, I would say it's a puzzle. Yeah, it's like
it is a
casual
puzzle
arcade puzzle game.
Yeah.
Like a short form puzzle game.
So now that you've kind of dipped your toes into the puzzle genre, or arcade genre, puzzle arcade, however you want to describe it, are you looking to experiment and reach out, or are you looking to kind of make Moo Moo Move 2, you know, and develop on what you've got?
Do you want to tell them about this next project and how much you actually want to share about it?
Ooh, sneak peek,
yeah,
yes, please.
Sure.
Yeah, sneak peek.
Yeah, sure. Like, yeah, we're currently working kind of like a passion project part time, because everyone else has got like jobs and stuff. Yeah, we're gonna like try and get a tavern keeper game going. See if we can get that to work.
I've been calling it a like tavern management game.
Yeah, I think that's a better way to describe it. Yeah, it's like stylized. How do I imagine? Imagine it's like your classic fantasy medieval tavern. From something out of like, you know, Lord of the Rings or D&D or whatever.
Yeah, it's very D&D inspired, because we play a lot of D&D.
I like it already.
Yeah.
But instead the focus is very narrow, and it just focuses on running a tavern and starting from scratch, and like say like, you know, you inherit this tavern or you buy it and you've basically got no money left at the beginning, and it's like a bit run down, it's a fixer-upper or something. And how do you go about improving it, changing the menu, hiring staff, getting word out so more people come and visit, and kind of build the reputation over time of like getting more people interested in coming to your tavern. And so we're in the works of trying to make a game that encapsulates a lot of like the jokey, fun, tongue-in-cheek aspects of what could happen in a scenario like that, you know, where you've got all these different fantasy characters all rubbing shoulders with each other, and some of them might like particular types of drinks over others, or, you know.
Yeah, because you would expect like elves to enjoy fine wine.
Yeah.
And, like dwarves with mead and stuff like that.
Exactly. You know, yeah, say an elf walks into the bar and you forgot to update the stores and, you know, provisions, and you don't have any wine in stock. You've just got mead. And so your elf gives you like a terrible, like medieval Yelp rating. He's like, oh, this is the worst tavern I've ever been in, and I'm gonna go back and tell all the elves never to come here, or whatever. You know, like something like that, where you have to manage the expectations of the clientele that are coming in.
Yeah. It's still very much in the works.
Yeah,
very much like early development. So ideas might change and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, I'm enthusiastic about it. I think it's quite fun. I think that projects like this, similar, like maybe a slightly bigger scope than Moo Moo Move was, but manageable, you know? Because I think you learn a lot from over-scoping a project and like seeing how other people over-scope projects. Like you mentioned before that some of the teams that we were pitted against in Tranzfuser, some of them, even if you gave them like 50,000 or 100,000 pounds, they didn't have enough. Right? Yeah. They wouldn't have enough money to finance finishing the game idea that they pitched, because the pitch was just so big, you know.
Yeah.
And I think we want to make sure that whatever we think of doing next, it's something that's manageable within a small team.
Mm-hmm. When it comes to genres, I can see us branching out and literally dipping our toes in everything. Because
I think the only thing I would struggle doing is a kind of sport game, because I don't know anything about sports, really.
Oh yeah, that's one thing for all of us. It's like, you know, none of us play sport. I mean,
I'll attempt everything else, but a sports game would require me to know something about the sport that I'm making a game about. So,
do you feel like working on a game from start to finish has affected the way you view games and almost your enjoyment of them now? Because
100%.
Oh, it has. Okay.
Yeah. Now that we've actually finished the game, you can really appreciate all of the different details that you see within games that you play. I have said this countless occasions. I still play the game, like Overwatch. There's so much great design behind it, except for the balancing. The balancing is terrible. It always has been, and it always will be, probably. But the animations behind everything is so beautiful. Like when you fire a gun, you see all of the different components moving. When you reload, you see like literally how everything comes together to reload a weapon. The entire lore behind Overwatch is actually like really interesting to read up on.
So you're saying you enjoy it for different reasons now because of your experiences?
It's because you're seeing it through like the eyes of a designer right now.
Yeah.
Whereas maybe before you were just playing it as a gaming experience, and now you're like, what would you change? You know, in their shoes, or not like you see the cracks and stuff, but like you're just way more aware that every game you come in contact with was made by somebody, and those people, you know, they're mortal. They made something that isn't the absolute perfect game, and some games succeed more than others.
Yes. Yeah.
And you know, there are some things that I think, I don't know how this was made. It's like perfect in my eyes. But to the person that made it, they can probably see all these things that they would have changed.
Yeah,
you know?
Definitely.
Yeah, and vice versa. Like you see a game that had great potential and didn't succeed, and you're like, oh, I wonder if someone tried to do something like that again, whether they can realize the potential that game idea had, you know?
It does work both ways, though. You kind of like take a game that I'd say you're not enjoying or you are enjoying, and it amplifies it to make you enjoy it more.
Yeah, I think you just kind of, you can't help but have a gut feeling about what games you personally like as a player, but then as a dev, that mentality influences how you view your role in the career mode kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, you see a game that everyone is raving about, like communities are raving about, and then you kind of you don't get it. You don't see what the hype is. Or vice versa, you could see something that has flown under the radar and only a few articles have been written, or not many people are talking about this game. But to you, it's incredible, you know? And you're like, oh, why do people not recognize this?
Yeah, 100%.
But they do recognize something else, you know? Yeah, it's interesting.
I'm going to polish us off now. We finish with a quick fire question round. I'll say a question, basically, and then off the top of your head, say your answer.
Right. We'll decide this. We'll do it this way. If Tom goes first, I'll go second.
Yeah? You want to do it that way?
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Okay, you guys ready?
Yeah.
Sure.
FPS or RPGs?
RPG.
FPS.
McDonald's or Burger King?
McDonald's.
Golden Arches.
Live action or animation?
Animation.
Animation.
Chocolate or sweets?
Chocolate.
Sweets.
PC or Mac?
PC.
PC.
Thanks for being here today, guys, and chatting to us.
Yeah,
and
it was cool.
giving
Yeah,
us
Yeah,
it's
thanks,
really
guys.
fun. It
Appreciate it.
made us like reminisce. got all
Yeah.
nostalgic.
Yeah, you gave us a nice
Yeah,
window
that's
into
cool.
your experiences, both in and out of uni, which was awesome. Do you guys want to plug anything? Talk about Mochi Mode, anything you're working on, or just say where people can find you?
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Kev, do you know what those are? The plugs? I've never plugged anything in my life.
Well, where can you buy
So-
Moo Moo Move?
Moo Move is on Steam for under $4.
It might
It's
even be
usually-
on sale right now. It might
It's
even
usually
be
always on sale. You can find us both on Twitter. I'm at AnticKev.
I think I'm at Woodwode.
You have a website for Mochi Mode?
Yes, we do. It's mochimodegames.com. Other
Yeah,
than that,
we'll
like,
be updating that with
sooner or
projects-
later, right?
projects as we get further into them. Yeah, the project that we're working on at the moment will eventually make its way onto there.
Okay.
It's very early days at the moment, but yeah,
So people can
Other
keep
than
their
that-
eyes peeled on that site.
Yeah.
that and Twitter. I'm sure. Yeah, if you have Mochi Mode on Twitter, or if you have Kev or anyone like that on Twitter, you'll get in updates.
I also stream a little just for fun. That's on Twitch/AntiKev again, as always. Everything I am is AntiKev, basically.
Thanks again, guys.
All right.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks very much for having us.
Really fun.
Appreciate it,
No worries.
guys. Thanks.
Thank you.
Cheers.